Hey friends, today is 11th of January 2021 and let's start today's discussion with a word on the cabling on board on a survey spread. A survey spread is rather simple, yet on large offshore construction barges, USV and AUV large survey vessels, cabling is of prominence. We know that a lot of time is spent in mobilization and even lost just due to the cabling issues. On a survey spread, a boutique of cable has to be mobilized. For example, the serial cables, the coaxial cables like the 75 ohm RG59 for ROV video interface, the 50 ohms RG58 for 1 PPS, Ethernet CAT twisted pair cables, single mode and multi-mode fiber cables. These cables run all across the vessel through various patch panels in various modes such as the RS232, RS422, 485, 1 pulse per second and Ethernet. Then there are transmission protocols like in Ethernet we have TCP/IP, TCP server, UDP, direct, unicast or broadcast. All these signals transmit through a host of network switches, serial servers like Nport Moxa, ATTU and RTS PPS distribution panels. And none the least, we have the domain concentration and also proxy servers. We shall discuss all about these in our series of random talks. Today, in continuation with our earlier discussion on cables, we will ponder upon the network cables, specifically the Ethernet, which is the overwhelming choice of networking, though it wasn't always the case. Earlier, Ethernet had a competition from at least two network cabling standards, the token ring and ARCnet. ARCnet is still found in industrial applications for automation and factory robot control. Anyways, without regard to the technical merits, as Ethernet is inexpensive and readily available, it is the most practical choice nowadays. Of the three prominent type of cables, we had discussed coaxial cable earlier. Today we shall broadly discuss the twisted pair cables and later on the most interesting, the fiber optics. To begin with, let's take the thick coaxial cable which usually we find yellow in color. For example, the RG8 that uses the 10Base2 thicknets. Typically, it has a speed of 10 Mbps, which is also the case with 10Base2. But 10Base2 provide a larger transmission distance of 500 meters. Just the cheaper versions of these thick cable is the 10Base2 thin coaxial cable. For example, the RG58, which comes with the same speed of 10 Mbps but a lesser transmission distance of about 185 meters. Though not used in Ethernet, it is yet the cable of choice in a survey spread for 1 PPS transmission. On its ends, it connects with the BNC. Just in case we have multiple nodes, we employ T-BNC connectors. And if we have an open end, then a 50 ohm terminator resistor should be used to avoid signal reflection. Now let's hop on to the twisted pair cables. These are employed for balanced transmission and the wires are twisted just to avoid interference among themselves. When talking of cables, we take care of the impedance just for an efficient mix and match of the various Ethernet components. While thicknet RG8 and thinnet RG58 have a 50 ohms impedance, most twisted pairs have a characteristic impedance in between 100 to 150 ohms. Here the impedance is influenced by the spacing and the diameters of the conductors. This is the reason why we need converters and adapters. For example, a TTL adapter is required when a 1 PPS signal from a GPS receiver has to be fed to a navigation computer. The adapter essentially converts voltage and impedance of the 1 PPS pulse to RS232 level in order to make it readable by the computer. So the 1 PPS 5 volt pulse is converted to 12 volts by the transistor logic or the TTL adapter.